All right, we are here. We are live. We are live in Facebook land on the YouTube for Choircast in the Heresy After Hours group, joined by Jon and Nat Turney. Say hi, gentlemen.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hi, gentlemen.
You sons of bitches. I knew you guys. I set myself up for that.
You can't tee us up like that and not expect it.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
We're gonna take a swing.
I should know you two by now.
You should.
For those that don't know, this is the Turneys. They're from This Is Not Church, and you have another host on the show now, right?
Yeah. Bethany Shea is our third host. She can't be here with us today because she's actually preaching.
Yeah.
Well, it is Sunday.
She still does that church thing, to her credit.
Yep.
I'm gonna have. Is it too early for whiskey? I'm having some anyway.
You can do whatever you want. This is the Heresy After Hours. This is the Heretic Happy Hour. If you don't subscribe to This Is Not Church, what are you doing? Please do that. Go subscribe to wherever they listen. Wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe to them. That's where they'll be at. Well, what shall we talk about today? If you're listening, if you're watching along, good morning, Care Bear. You can comment on YouTube. Hi, Peggy. You can comment on Facebook, and we will get to. Hi, Lisa. We'll get to your questions, your comments. If you have questions for Nat and Jon, why don't you just say a little bit something about yourselves and maybe something about This Is Not Church? How long have you been going with that podcast and all that?
You want me to go, Jon?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So we've been doing the This Is Not Church podcast for almost 3 years, Jon.
No, almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years. Damn, it went by. This is the brainchild of Jon. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be a podcast. So, and it's still true because Jon is the guy that runs out and books amazing guests and does all this stuff. Has these really great relationships with publishers and things like that. So when we first started, we were deeply into the deconstruction stuff. And so if you go back and look at our first, probably first season, it's all the usual suspects, all of the people that we were reading and paying attention to, yourself included, Keith, Brian Zond, guys like that. Brad Jersak figured prominently in the early. And then about a year, maybe even a little less in, we got tired of talking to old white guys and started thinking to ourselves, Jesus, they're all great dudes, no problem. But man, we need to be hitting a different audience. And so Jon and I both made a concerted effort to reach out to LGBTQ folks, to people who are in that community who are writing and doing stuff that was interesting, BIPOC folks. So we've had all of a sudden that exploded. We've just had the coolest people on. So everything from really, really brilliant biblical scholars all the way to activists and people who are working in those spaces, people who are working for social justice, for reformation in the prison systems, for you name it. And so not that the deconstruction thing is gone, but I think for a lot of us, we've deconstructed about as far as we can. And it does, I don't know, it just feels like that, like the next phase of this is, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And the now what does any of that mean in a post-Christian, postmodern, and now a newly elected Trumpian world? What does this look like now? Because now, Jon and I have the privilege of being a couple of post-middle-aged white guys for whom a lot of this stuff isn't going to really personally affect us. But I'm terrified for my friends. And I see the stuff coming down the pike, and we'll talk a little bit about that this morning, I'm sure, with some of the uber religious stuff that's about to happen and turning back the clock on a lot of folks that we love and care about. So I think that going forward for us, that'll be the thrust. That'll be the focus, is trying to platform as many people as we possibly can who might find themselves being more and more marginalized even in the future. Jon, did I get that pretty close?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, where it's like, okay, we have some privilege as middle-aged
We have a-
cisgender white
yeah.
guys, and we can either use that privilege to do whatever the hell we want for ourselves, or we can use it to platform people that we know are marginalized and need to be heard. And I think that's important. And it's going to be a tough 4 years. I think we've already seen it. I think we've already seen the vitriol from people who think they have carte blanche, okay to say whatever the fuck they want now, and say it into people's faces. And so it's going to be interesting. And yeah, so if we can use our platform to help get these voices out, I think that's the right thing to do.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you both on that message, and yeah, I think I've moved personally in the space of like I try not to use the word deconstruction. For me, it's really about decolonizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
So you want to be a person of faith, decolonize your faith, because in the American context, at least, Christianity by and large is a colonizing faith.
Yep.
And if you're in the Black church, it's a colonized faith because Christianity was used to colonize them. So I think if we're people of faith, if we're Christian at all, and even if we're post-Christian, I think we have to look back at what parts of our faith we're colonizing. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a better D word for
Yeah.
me.
I think so. Well,
Yeah.
and it starts for a lot of us in even recognizing that colonization in the first place, because
Yeah.
most of us are oblivious to it. I was for a long time,
Right.
and there's still parts of it I'm sure that I am, because again, my definition of privilege that I go to all the time is I have the option to think or not think about these things.
Yeah,
and that's the
sure.
biggest chunk of privilege for me. I can turn off the news for the next 4 years, bury my head in the sand, and life for me will probably go fairly unchanged. All of my people, my friends of color, my friends in the LGBTQ plus community, they don't have that option. They got to live their life every day.
Yeah.
I've got friends living in San Antonio right now who are terrified that that Trump will appoint somebody else to the Supreme Court who will do what they swore to do with Roe, that they'll do that with gay marriage. And all of a sudden we're going to have, and my thought is he'll do the same. It'll be the same stupid argument of, well, we need to kick this back to the states. And we'll have a situation where my friend's marriage will be recognized in other states, perhaps, but not in the state they live in.
Yeah.
Or they'll be criminalized, or there's all
Yep.
kinds of, it's a terrifying time for those folks. And so we don't have, I guess in reality it's an option to bury your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening. But ethically, I can't do that.
Right.
I don't think we can, whatever level of faith I still adhere to, starts first and foremost with caring about those people and not allowing them to be shuffled off without a fight. So
Yeah.
for whatever's going to happen, I'm geared
Yeah.
up. Let's go. I saw your post, Matt, on election and post-election. We're either in the resistance or not. And
Yeah, and some people don't like that word, and it's probably going to be overused, but
it will be, sure.
I think I'm just personally, I'm kind of sick of I get it. Take all the time you need. Well, not all the time you need. These are pressing matters. Take some time, but this
Sure.
whole notion of get out in nature and just pretend no, I hope you have the privilege that it doesn't affect you. I hope you know what I mean? But I got a daughter that goes to school, and it's
Yeah.
a trend to yell "Your body, my choice" now
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
public schools across the United States.
Mm.
So let's just keep it real. We all just can't go take a deep breath in nature and go for a walk and sing Kumbaya
Yeah.
nothing's gonna happen. I think this is more serious than a lot of people understand. And I think what we need to realize is this kind of thing has been in play for a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So these motherfuckers are closer to uncontrollable power
Yeah.
as we've ever gotten.
Well, yeah, with the Supreme Court, basically giving the president carte blanche to do whatever the hell he wants and not get in trouble
Which should
for
be
it.
That's ironic right
Right.
now, which
Yeah,
is weird.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we
Would
have
it
a
be
president right now.
would it be an official act to prevent fascism? That seems official.
I think I'm down for it, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is about to be, for all of the hyperbole. Sadly, I don't think it's hyperbole. I think there's a clear and present danger that unchecked and unbridled power, and you've already seen the Republican Party has no interest in reining any of this in.
Nat, tell us about the things that you mentioned, 4 bills in Texas that you were
So
reading about.
I have a good buddy. In fact, we're going to have him on the podcast soon. He is a public school superintendent here in Texas, and he just sent me a text on Friday. He said that, I'll just read it to you. He said the proposals are already coming in. Hopefully they won't pass, but there's a good chance some versions will. So here's 4 bills that are going to, and he didn't specify. I'm going to guess these are coming up in the Texas legislature, no, it's just how HB is House bill, right? So I don't know if it's the Texas House.
It could be Texas House. Yeah,
sure. I think these are specific to Texas, but in a lot of ways, like in progressive / liberal terms, and I hate to use those, but you get what I'm coming from. As goes California, so goes the rest of the country in some respects, right? When it comes to regressive bullshit, as goes Texas, so goes the South for sure.
I've heard South Carolina. I mean, not South Carolina. South Dakota is where they test out a lot of this crazy shit too.
Wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah,
I'm leery of any state with the word South in it. Makes me nervous. But here's this one's already happening. HB 1348 would be a requirement to display 10 commandments in classrooms. There were 10 commandments on display in the last classroom that got shot up. What the fuck good did that do?
Yeah.
Thou shalt not kill. I don't give a fuck. They come in anyway. But that's one. And there's also there's a facet of that my friend told me about that said in the state of Texas, if somebody donates something like that to a school, they're required to display it. So churches have been going in and donating 10 Commandments posters and shit like that, and then bringing up this rule that says now, okay, it's been donated, you have to display it. So my good friends in the Church of Satan have started playing that little game too. And so, fine, we'll display your 10 Commandments, but we've also donated this statue of I've always forget how to pronounce his name, Baphomet.
It's got to be Baphomet. Yeah,
and you're required to display it. And I'm like,
yep.
I love Satanists. Honestly, I've never met a bad Satanist in my life. They're pretty decent folks.
I just love pettiness. I know.
I do too. I'm here for all the.
I told people I'm going to be a petty bitch for a whole 4 years.
I've tried to rise above. I'm no longer rising above.
No, Michelle Obama can go high. I'm
that's right. I'm going mid or low, man. I'm gonna. So that's one bill. HB 717. School employees protected to engage students in religious speech while on duty. So now they can proselytize. I taught in a charter school in Texas for many years that was, for all intents and purposes, was a religious school, but it wasn't, if that makes sense. If you understand the charter school rules in Texas, we weren't technically allowed to proselytize. Lots of people did.
Just like you're technically not supposed to get political from the pulpit and keep your 501c3,
but they do. And so I allowed students to use my classroom during lunch for Bible study, but I always maintained a very clear, hey, this is student led, student run. I'm only here to make sure you don't burn the building down. I'm not getting involved in your conversations because I'm not here to influence you that way. This would protect school employees, not just teachers, but all school employees to do that. HB 196 would require that they teach that life begins at conception. That's fucked.
That's weird. I wrote a piece on life actually begins before conception.
Oh, nice.
And so every time men like us masturbate, we're basically killing millions of potential lives.
Like,
so I think we need to legislate against that.
Well, when I was a kid, nobody would use the word masturbation. By the way, that's everything was you. But there is remember the story in the Bible about, and I don't remember the characters' names because I no longer care. But it was so and so spilled his seed upon the ground. He was supposed to go
Onan.
Right, because his brother died, and his job was he was supposed to go and
knock your sister-in-law up.
Right, knock your sister up, and he wouldn't do it. But that was used as a anti-masturbation verse against us. Like, don't spill yours. I'm like, I'm not spilling it on the ground. going into a tissue. You're fine. Just don't throw it on the ground. Now, my former good buddy, who will never see this, so I can talk about him, who is now a TikTok dipshit evangelical young gun. He does these little short 30-second reels, and he got picked up by somebody. It went viral, but because he put this little clip out, and his thought was that when Jesus says, if your right hand offends you, cut it off, that Jesus is specifically talking about masturbation. He went so far as to say that all biblical scholars agree that this is what Jesus was talking about.
Okay, then cut your hand off, motherfucker. You masturbated.
There should not be a human male. There should be like 1% of the population of men, and they just have sexual dysfunction, who are walking around one-handed. I would have lost that thing at like 12.
Donna has a good question. Is it possible church attendance and tithe will be required? I mean, probably deep into Gilead, year 4.
Yeah, you're gonna be into the second term of, because I don't think Trump's going away personally, or
I think
just as scary. Honestly, his running mate's just as fucking bad or worse.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think Trump. I put the over under at a year that Trump makes it, and they invoked
this may have all just been a Trojan horse to get JD Vance to.
JD Vance is in 2025 go hand in hand, so that's some scary shit too.
People need to remember that Donald Trump is not a Christian nationalist.
No,
he's a gateway to that. He's like you said, a Trojan horse for that. But Christian nationalism goes all the way back to like them trying to get in power, goes all the way back to Bob Jones and shit. Like, Christian nationalists don't give a fuck about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump really doesn't give a fuck about them.
Right. That's absolutely
except for that they're useful towards each other. Donald Trump wants to stay in power, not even stay in power. Donald Trump just likes adulation and people to like him and to stay out of prison. And Christian nationalists are going to use that to gain power, because I'm going to guess someone's got some shit on this guy.
Oh, absolutely.
There's got to be a video of him pissing on someone in Russia or doing some crazy shit. There's got to be. There's got to be some Black Mirror type shit out there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of. There's a guy in Ohio who's a pastor, quote unquote, in a. Oh gosh, I can't remember what town in Ohio, but it's called Christ Church, and he's a full-blown, full-throated Christian nationalist, and like young Earth creationist, all that stuff that goes along with it, and he's touting what's about to happen is that this is the beginning of the Christian takeover of the country. I see it as the continuation, obviously, of the colonization that has been underway for 200 plus years. But the shit's about to get real. There was one more bill in there, and I don't remember. It's it's HB. Of course, I can't get it. Doesn't matter. But it is a bill that would reimburse parents up to 80% for enrollment in private religious schools.
Oh, jeez.
So kind of like an end run around vouchers,
Yeah. I mean, that's been that I feel like that's been going on for quite a while, trying to get people to put their kids into private schools. Because public schools are where the Satan worshipers are, where the people who are, pro-choice, everything that the Christian right doesn't want us to do, right?
Well, and I mean they're doing whole ass surgeries on kids, remember?
Oh, well, apparently your kid can go to your kid can go to school in the morning as a boy and come home a girl, because that's how that works.
It's happened twice to us. It's gone one way and then back to the other way.
Well, then you got to have that whole scene with Michael from The Office going, snip, snap, snip, snap. Do you have any,
That's what it is.
Do
you have any idea?
The effect that multiple transitions to it's
schools can't afford pencils and supplies, but they're doing whole reassignment surgeries.
Yeah,
in the nurse's office, who has at her disposal Motrin and some band-aids.
With the LVN there. Mm-hmm.
They won't even. It's nuts. What drove me crazy. I know this is all tongue in cheek, but these were the commercials on TV, right?
Yeah,
and they were for sure, like people believed this. People where I live were 100% convinced this was happening. So the new bugaboo, and we've talked about this a bunch on the show, John and I have. I think we've gotten to a point where, by and large, and I know not entirely, but by and large, I think your run-of-the-mill gay or lesbian, homosexual is accepted to a point, and the new bugaboo, the new boogeyman, are trans folks, because we just don't know what to do with them. You know, I don't know if you watched the newish documentary with Will Ferrell, where he goes on the road trip with his friend to transition.
I've heard a lot about it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's really it's good. I don't know. I'd like to hear from more trans folks what they thought of it. It seemed sometimes a little emotionally manipulative, and but it's a really interesting story, because I think Will Ferrell grapples with, okay, what do I do with this thing that I really don't like? I just truly don't understand. And John and I grappled with this the first couple times we had folks on who and we just were like, okay, I'm going to step all over myself here, and I'm going to say things that are probably not correct, but I'm just going to ask for forgiveness ahead of time and say, we're doing our best to understand this. Help me with the terminology. Help me with, answer some really dumb questions I might have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, our first transgender person on, I misgendered on the show.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you ask for forgiveness, and you try to correct your mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Every trans person I've ever known that has been misgendered was forgiving and gracious, as long as the person had good intentions.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so many of these people, and you see this happen now all the time. You remember in the Olympics when the person who wasn't even trans, by the way, but the female boxer, they misgendered her on purpose over and over again. And it was just so petty and just so shitty.
That's what it comes down to. It's shit. They're just shitty. It's like just being shitty. That's it. They're not trying to. Like, it's one thing to be petty towards those who are in charge and those who are oppressing, and it's another to be shitty on like who are all these people being harmed by trans people? It's not happening.
Right.
Like, they've created, like you said, it's a new bugaboo. Pretty much, lesbian, bi folks, and gay folks. I'm not going to say it's 100% better for everyone.
No, it's not.
But overall, the vitriol has moved on to drag queens and trans folks and non-binary folks.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really do think when it comes to homophobia, whether it's gender or sex, sexuality, or sex, I think it's so many people's internal insecurities about who they might be exposed as being. Like, when we say you're homophobic, they're like, I'm not afraid of gay people. No, we never said that.
No,
you're homophobic because you might have certain feelings that fall on some sort of spectrum,
right?
And that makes you feel some kind of way,
yeah,
right? and you're lashing out at people. I think there's so much of that we don't even really.
Oh yeah. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and that's one of the topics that came up in that conversation was this idea of sexuality on a spectrum, right? And and that gives you a very broad definition for what sexuality can be. And I think that's what they're afraid of, that they're on this spectrum at some level that makes them uncomfortable. And they're raised to believe a certain thing. And so now they have to lash out, because that's what we do. And we don't understand, right? We lash out.
Donna has a heartbreaking point here. Donna says, my daughter hosts drag queen story hour at her stores. Proud Boys protest and threaten to kill her. Will the police still come when she calls? We don't know. We don't know.
Right.
Like, we don't know what this is going to be like. We've seen Christian nationalism become very mainstream, and they've never had all the power structures. They've had the Supreme Court here. They've had the House there. They've had the presidency here. And now they got the quadfecta, if that's a word.
Right.
Yeah. I mean it.
And so we don't know.
Though, no, we don't.
What?
No, I went to my first drag show. I went to my first drag show in my 50s. Not that I just did. I was invited. I was like, oh man, okay, let's go. And it was as much to be seen in a place like that as anything else. You know what I mean? I live in a fairly small town. A lot of people know me, and that's good. You might. I'm fairly well known, John. You might not know this, but
You might not know.
I'm recognizable. And so me and my wife and I and a couple friends went to this drag show, and awesome. Had a really good time. Had a good time. And ran into people I never thought I'd see there, and I was so heartened when I left. I was so encouraged by the 60-year-old cowboy in the cowboy hat with his wife, who were stuffing dollar bills in the G strings of the drag, like just having a good time. There was this broad spectrum of people in the place within those four walls of that building that night. There was a lack of judgment. There was just this friendly, entertainment going on, and everybody left. I was shocked. I was shocked by that. And then when certain friends of mine found out that we were there, we got a ration of shit from the religious folks, and I was free to tell them to go fuck themselves because I'll do what I want. And nobody was harmed. And there were, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. I'm rewatching Schitt's Creek. One of the things I'm doing in my 50s is I'm going back and I'm looking at TV shows that maybe in my evangelical days I would not have felt comfortable watching. So I went back and watched, Will and Grace, which is kind of terrible. It's actually kind of cringe. But I went back and I watched Schitt's Creek through for the second time, and I never noticed it. But somebody pointed out online, like one of the things I loved about Schitt's Creek is that when David's character in Schitt's Creek comes out, like nobody makes a big deal out of it.
Right.
It just happens. Like there's no critique of it. There's no pushback on it. And it's this idyllic idea of like, what if people just were allowed to discover who they are as they are and were accepted for who they are. And there was just, oh, you're gay? Sweet. Okay. Next, what's for breakfast?
Yep.
And I never realized that. So I went back and started watching it again. I'm like, you know what? That's true. They just kind of, they address the issue, but they live in this sort of idyllic place where this isn't, and I don't know, it got me wistfully thinking, like, what could it be like if we just stopped giving a shit about what people do in private, about how people conduct their lives in ways that don't harm other people? What if we were just truly to embrace the humanism of Jesus even and say human flourishing and human health and welfare is what matters most?
Right.
And
well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that. The only thing I would say on top of that is we also got to get over what people do in public.
Oh, this is true.
So
yeah.
two guys are holding hands. Two ladies are kissing. I mean, we don't stop and berate a man and a woman who happen to be kissing on the side of the street. That's never an issue. Right?
Oh, I do.
But you see, oh, do you?
I shame the hell out of them.
But as soon as there's any kind of same sex or anything that seems unnatural, it's a public display of affection. That shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
So that would be the only caveat I would say.
Yeah, we do that with little, kindergartens, first grade. Who's your little girlfriend? Da, da, da.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we don't. Oh, it's too young. These kids are too young to be talking about LGBTQ stuff. It's like, but you just gave me a little girlfriend when I'm 5. Like, she's my girlfriend because her mom baked me cookies and we went for a walk. Like, but you want to use that sexualized language like boyfriend and girlfriend and things like that.
Right.
It's straight. It's okay when it's straight, but when it's anything non-straight, then it gets, oh, now you're sexualizing the kids, yada yada.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or conversely, you're letting them know that these people exist and they're human and they're like who knows? Like, I don't know. I get your point. It's maddening. And I don't know. I know the world's me being in Texas, and not just Texas, but the western part of Texas, comes up a bit. Life is different somewhat. Although California, I don't know. People think, people who haven't lived there can sometimes picture California as a liberal sort of panacea. It's not. There's plenty of,
I'm in a red county in California.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of red. My whole family's pretty red. So just because they by and large vote blue doesn't mean that there's not still plenty of pushback folks are getting. Yeah. But anyway.
There were more Trump Vance posters around my house than there were Harris, that's for sure. So, I mean, just because I live in California doesn't mean, I mean, and I think Matthew would agree with me though. I mean, we do live in a state where we kind of know where it's going to go. At the end of the night, the election, we knew which way it would vote for president. So, did I have the privilege to say maybe vote third party if I was in complete disagreement with both, because my vote isn't really going to change the way
Right.
California goes? I did, but did I vote third party? No, because I think it was important to vote on who we wanted to be president, and unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way. But yeah, I agree with you that California is too big to be all blue, and
No.
yeah.
Well, you and I grew up going to high school with guys that drove pickups and had guns in their car, and
oh yeah,
yep. I mean, it's
literally in their cars on the high school campus.
Yeah,
that was a thing.
That was just, that was there was plenty of because it's a pretty rural area where we grew up, so lots of blue collar, farmers, ranchers, those kinds of things. But I don't know. Anyway, we could go on like that, but there's all kinds of goofy stuff, man.
It'll be interesting to see what California does. I know in Texas, I'm sure they'll be eager to deport people, but I wonder what happens when you get to states that don't want to comply with that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Well, you remember last year they were this is how much of a Texan I'm not. Who's our damn governor?
Yeah, I don't have Greg Abbott.
But Abbott, yeah, thank you. But remember, he was busing migrant workers to like Massachusetts and New York, and like just dumping them there unceremoniously and going, fine, you want illegals, you can have all your illegals. And he was now he didn't realize he was doing them huge favors, probably. It was
isn't that
not
trafficking?
Great. It sounded like trafficking to me.
Sounds like trafficking to me.
I'm trying to figure out how a government that can't seem to get much of anything right is going to mobilize to such a degree that they can do mass deportations. I don't know.
I think you might be surprised when they're doing things that they think that is their God-given right to, though, how quickly they can assemble.
I just wonder what is going to happen in people's minds once grocery prices go up.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I can tell you right now, John, don't you farm?
It's very, very small. Nothing like what you're
doing.
Well,
I'm starting a fucking farm. And hold on, I'm going to close these real quick. And it's hard goddamn work. And I guarantee you, Doug, Kevin, and whoever is not going to be fucking picking strawberries all goddamn day.
No,
not for the amount of money that most folks get paid to do that. It's backbreaking work. It's tough work.
It's very hard work.
It is very hard. And I told my wife the day after the election, we took snapshots of like grocery items, like because we own a business, and we so I know the price of milk and I know the price of eggs, and because I buy them every day. Let's see in a year what those, because the people that think somehow that presidents have control over consumer prices are crazy or dumb. They don't. And I work also in another, so I own a business and I also work in the oil business. So hold that against me if you must, but I do. And all of my friends were like gleeful. They're gleeful because now it's drill baby drill. We're going to go, like, what have I been doing for the last 4 years? We haven't slowed down.
Now it's drill baby drill. Don't we have the highest? We're drilling more than we ever have.
Yeah, and that all happened under Biden. Biden was not bad for the oil business, man. We have drilled.
I think that's part of progressives' complaints.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And honestly, and I'm 99% sure that that Kamala would have probably continued the same policies. They were all freaking out. We're all going to go out of work, and I'm like, I think
4 years of it booming, right?
I haven't had this much work in the 10 years I've been doing this. It's crazy. And you can just sort of tell by, I work in a city called Midland, which is one of the largest oil producing natural gas. But I can just tell when I drive by the yards where they usually have the oil rigs stored, there's none there. They're all out being used. So anyway, all of that was to say that, I don't know what's going to happen. I guess what could happen is all of the prohibitions of like saying drilling in the Anwar and drilling on certain federal protected lands is probably going to go away. I wouldn't be surprised if, we start fucking up, pristine, wildlife refuges and stuff like that. And some of the pipelines that I'm sure that they've been trying to get pushed through will now probably just sail through. So,
well, and this will undoubtedly affect our Native American folks as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll if we feel the need to use our power, I mean our as in the government, to take their land again, we will do that. I mean, we've shown time and time again that we are fine with doing that as well.
John's got a good comment here. I don't doubt that they'd start deporting undocumented immigrants in red states. DeSantis did a dry run in Florida. He didn't need to deport. He just announced and people started fleeing. Yeah, and then what happened? Construction came to a halt.
Yep.
Like, what's going to happen when I live in an agricultural part of California? All of the middle, that whole valley you see on that map is all agricultural. What's the plan here? Like, I talk to people who are like, well, we need a strong border, we need immigration reform and this and that. And it's like, okay, so your solution is just fucking go nuclear? That doesn't.
Yeah.
I think it takes, I mean, it sounds silly to say, but like not everything is black and white.
Right.
Like, okay, so we need reform on immigration. We've needed that for a long time. You're just gonna and we're not even talking about the morality of it.
Right.
Talking about like they don't care about the morality.
Let's talk about like the logistics of it.
Yeah, the morals don't seem to matter to Christians anymore, to right wingers anymore. Like you can't play they don't care about breaking up families. I mean, really, they might say it, but when it comes down to it, they vote a certain way.
Well, I mean, we forget, basically what the gospel says about the immigrant, about the foreigner, right? About what we're supposed to do with the
even the Old Testament,
right? Even the Old Testament, correct?
Yeah,
we forget what's written on the tablet on our Statue of Liberty. That literally says basically that we should take care of the immigrant,
right?
But all that has to be pushed aside because it's just it comes down to pocketbook, and I don't know how these folks didn't know what a tariff was. I didn't know. I really thought they would think ahead of like, well, what happens if 20 million people are deported? Yeah.
Like prices go down.
Right. Sure. Well, because then it will all be America. It'll be American made, American whatever, America.
The gravy seals are going to go out there and pick all the vegetables.
Sure. The guys walking into the burger joint with the M16 strapped to their chest and the fucking idiots. It is. It's maddening. But what your point is well taken, though. Christians have, I think, in my opinion, Christians are just showing their hands. They're just showing they don't care about morality. They've never really cared about morality. They don't care about ethics. They've absolutely never cared about ethics. The idea of a Christian ethic eludes most people, and their morality has been oversimplified to mean things like, we don't go to R-rated movies, and we, I don't drink, smoke, or chew, and go with girls that do that. That was the morality that even John and I were raised on, even in the 70s. It was like, what is Christian morality? Well, Christian morality is we don't listen to secular music. We don't go to R-rated movies. We don't go all the way with our girlfriend. It was a very private, personal, one-on-one morality. And I don't think I ever heard anyone address the issues of, well, how do we operate in the world? Like, how is a Christian supposed to treat their fellow human being?
I think that's like vertical ethics versus horizontal ethics. Like religious folks, it's all about like this. Yeah. It's like this, don't offend God. It's like these kind of arbitrary, nebulous, like, you can get a hand job, but you probably shouldn't, but don't have sex. It's like, well, why? I mean, like, it's just like, because don't do it. It's bad. Don't say fuck because it's some sort of magical incantational thing that the letters somehow, but it doesn't think about the horizontal, the human to human, any of this. It takes that all out. It's all theoretical and not really practical.
Well, and it gets you to the point where you don't think for yourself, because you again you're in a church that tells you what to say, how to say it, what to do, how to do it, and
or how not to do it.
or how not to do it. Correct. Right. I mean, I put myself, and I hate, some of the things I did when I was in church, I absolutely hate about myself. Right. I mean, I went on I picketed a Planned Parenthood. Now, was I comfortable doing it when I was there? Fuck no. But I thought I was supposed to. So I'm there with a sign picketing. And if I could, and I've written about this actually in a blog years ago now, if I could find every single person who walked through our picket line so I could apologize to them, I would. Because how fucking horrible was that I did? But I did it because the pastor told me we should. And I wasn't thinking about, like you say, the people on the plane, basically. Who am I harming?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
So much of Christianity is that it's like somehow our sins are only thought about in like direct, like, how does it affect this idea of God?
Yeah.
It's never like, when you think about the sin of like being in a gay relationship, we never ask in the church, at least. And I hated myself as someone who I didn't have language that I was bi, but I knew there was something wrong, quote unquote, with me, because I was having feelings that other people apparently weren't, and there was something wrong with me. I don't even know where I was going with that. Where was I going with that? Shit, the thought evaporated, like, out into the quantum realm. It was taken from me. I was about to make a point, but alas, I smoked too much weed or something. Lisa says, never saw it coming. It was like being tossed into a foreign land. Holding a friend's hand going into a clinic was terrifying. Yeah. And it doesn't help that it's like the lack of empathy is really striking in Christianity.
Yeah.
Well, and then
Like
even years later, after I had, this all was not part of my thought process anymore. When my wife became pregnant with our first child, she's like, well, let's go to Planned Parenthood and get a pregnancy test. And I'm like, no, we can't go there. Out of all the places you chose, we're going there. And so for the first thought in my brain was, we got to pick someplace else. I can't go there. And this was me being post-Christian even. That's how much it's ingrained in people like us when this stuff is like ingrained into our brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a Planned Parenthood building in my town that closed years ago. And a friend of mine actually bought it and put his accounting firm in there for a little while. And people wouldn't come. He actually ended up leaving that building partially because people still remember what the building used to be. Now, mind you, that Planned Parenthood never performed abortions. It was literally a women's clinic. It did amazing stuff. Free mammograms, pregnancy tests, all pre and postnatal care. I mean, it was actually a very, very useful medical facility. But it's sitting empty right now and nobody will buy it. And part of it is because they just remember, oh, that's where they used to kill babies. And I'm like, and it's weird because, my wife and I talk a lot now. And she's coming into her own revelations about some of this stuff as a, middle-aged now, but also raised evangelical. And she's come full circle on a lot of this stuff. And she was mad as hell that Roe got overturned. And I'm like, 10 years ago, we would have been out there rejoicing with everybody else. We'd have been like, yeah, we did it. We said we'd do it. Man, we overturned Roe. It's a victory for the unborn. Yay. And but we both see it now for what it really is, which is they're murdering women under the guise of the law. And they're want to talk about how the church has no morality or ethics. They don't give a shit. You show them the statistics that women are being left untreated with life-threatening illnesses, and in many cases dying. And they're like, I mean, it does not faze them. And I don't understand. I don't understand how somebody who can claim to be a follower of Christ can be that apathetic or even,
well, it's just,
malicious towards other people.
Yeah. It's just one more proof that they are not pro-life. They're pro-birth. They've never been pro-life.
Gilead's all about control, man.
Right.
So we gotta.
I'm sort of thankful for all of them because it kind of gives me, to be selfish, validation on walking away from these motherfuckers.
Hell yeah.
Because you know what I mean? Like the thinnest lining, the silver lining of like, well, thank you at least for showing us who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I got no qualms about how I left, about how I walked out. Sure, I might have burnt some bridges, but fuck me, you guys showed your hand, and it's very validating that you guys are just, you want nothing to do with Jesus except for him to provide cover for you so you can clutch your pearls and take the moral high ground, but it's not earned.
No,
Nope.
not at all. No, I'm with you. At every turn, I'm like, I made the right choice to walk away. There's nothing there, and there's nothing. And I, maybe for a hot minute, there was the thought in the back of my mind that under the right circumstances, I might go back. Hell no, there's nothing there for me.
John made a comment here.
Yes.
Will they still protect the unborn if science discovered a way of telling if the fetus would be LGBT when born? Oh damn, John!
John.
I'm gonna note this as probably a bit of satire that I might get in trouble for.
Yeah, but that's a really good point.
It's a valid point.
They might start caring a little less, as it says in Animal Farms. In Animal Farm, all the animals are equal. Some are a little more equal. So,
oh shit!
I think that's going to apply to fetuses if they could find out the gender or sex. Maybe even if they're just a liberal.
Yeah, we got to push hard against them liberals, man. Apparently, we're not in any danger of taking over, so you're fine. If this most recent election proves anything, and I don't know that it does, but
I think what it proves is that liberals or Democrats or whoever are really bad at stealing elections, because there's no voter fraud from this election.
No.
Which is wild, because it kind of, I guess they just thought, well, we don't need to steal this one.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also shows that liberals are more likely to vote using their using their brain, I guess, and they're going to vote who they want to vote for. Where the MAGA voters are going to vote for one person, period. Because I mean, the amount of people who were registering to vote showed something different. So somewhere they got pissed off at the party was the only thing I can think of, because the amount of votes less.
I'm going to guess a lot of them protest voted.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Or just opted out because of Gaza.
Yeah, and I think that's an underestimated block of voters who were like,
and now we got Mike motherfucking Huckabee.
Yeah, and the thing, and that's the short-sightedness of it all, is that you may not have appreciated or agreed with the stance that Biden and Harris took on Gaza. It's not going to get any better under Trump.
Right.
No, it ain't.
It's like, I agree with what Bernie said when he came out after the election. I agree with him. But at the same time, it's like, we had a choice, and it was down to two. It really was down to two, and we should have come out in droves and voted.
The other thing that shows me, though, guys, is that as much as we don't think we are, we're still misogynistic as hell. And I don't know. Apparently, it's just a bridge too far. I think Biden would have had a better shot, sadly, and only because of because he's got a penis. They might have rather elected a doddering old man than a woman, and I think we showed it.
Yeah, I think this country hates femininity.
I think so.
It's the same reason I was like, don't run Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah,
no.
That dude's a literal Mensa member, which, I mean, he's an actual genius.
It's a goddamn genius. He really is.
And I guarantee he would have lost because he's gay. I mean,
oh yeah.
This country hates women and gay folks because they hate feminine.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And it breaks my heart, because Buttigieg is a genuinely decent guy, I think, and a smart
and
competent, smart. Yeah, and that was the thing. How did that fucking narrative take? How did that get taken?
Because people hate women. Because I talked to actual family members who were like, "Oh, it wasn't about this and that. It's just I thought she was uneducated." And I was like, motherfucker, you never said that about Trump, A, and he's the most dumb motherfucker I've ever heard talk.
Yeah.
And B, she passed the bar, bitch. Like, what do you mean she's uneducated? Like, you went to the same state school as I went to, no disrespect, because I'm a state school graduate too, but what do you mean she's uneducated? And I'm not, and he's like, well, that's my opinion. I said, well, I'm not arguing your opinion. I'm arguing the reason you have your opinion. And
Right.
I am telling you it is because she's a black woman.
Right.
That's why I'm not arguing that that's your opinion. I'm arguing why you have the opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and it it took her 2 times to pass the bar, right? And of course that
Who
had to
gives
be
a
brought
fuck?
back. Right, exactly.
Who gives
That is more common than it is not. That it would
Yeah.
take more than one time to pass the bar. And again, I agree with you. The reason that was even brought up is because she was a black woman. Like, she's a black
Yeah,
woman.
exactly.
Not because, oh, well, see, it took her 2 times. She's not that. No, you wouldn't have said that the same thing for a white man. You wouldn't. You just absolutely wouldn't.
Absolutely wouldn't and didn't.
No, and
Yeah.
and the tropes about her sleeping her way to the top and all that bullshit, but which is just so typical of right wing dudes.
Meanwhile, they don't give us they don't give shit about that. Meanwhile, they
No,
turn
they
a blind
don't.
eye to a literal guy who says he pops in on Miss Teen USA.
Yeah.
Girls who are changing, 14 to 19-year girls. You want to talk about sleeping what you do with your body?
Yeah.
But you don't want to talk about when the below average white man does it.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean,
And just the
talking about
crude conversation that he has in front of public
Let's be
audiences.
real.
Yeah.
I told my wife at one point, I was like, you know what? I mean, I think he's giving me permission just to say whatever the fuck I want around people and just see how quickly I offend people.
They shouldn't be offended. I floated the idea of calling MAGA women by their husband name.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good.
Like I told you, I'm petty as hell. Under his eye.
I think pettiness is an underrated character trait, because I'm here for it. I just to be fair, I mean, just from a pragmatic sense, I mean, what has taken the high road gotten us?
It
It just got us a second term of Trump. Yeah, it's gotten us fascism. I mean, there's no. I'm no longer worried about taking the high road. When they go low, I'm gonna go lower. And honestly, there's time when it's just you just need to call things for what they are, and that's if that's I don't like the Hitler comparisons, but there's too many parallels to at least Nazism. Whether it will lead to concentration camps is another. I don't know. I don't think so, but I hope not. But you can't ignore the parallels of how these people came to power, and the kinds of languages and the kind of language that they use, and the ways that they marginalize and categorize people, call them subhuman, and basically give license to people to do things for things they now have a champion for. So I suspect that hate crimes are going to go through the roof. I think we're going to have more, black churches burned. I think we're going to have more shootings in synagogues. There's going to be all kinds of crazy shit happening.
We just saw those fucking Nazis or people holding Nazi flags in Columbus, Ohio. I just saw that the other day.
Because now they have permission to be out and proud. I don't know. And
again, there's good people on both sides, Nat.
Well, sure. I mean,
oh, geez,
not all the Nazis were bad people, sure, but all bad people were Nazis. So let's not forget.
Well, I mean, the Hitler. I mean, hey, let's be real. It's J.D. Vance who referred to Donald Trump as America's Hitler.
Yeah.
How quickly they forget.
I mean,
well, and that just shows me what chicken shit opportunists they all are, right? Because, I mean, at any given time, Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, go down the list. They've all spoken out against, and obviously, Trump has had nasty things to say about all of them, and their wives and their McConnell's such a shit. He's such a turd. But all of a sudden, when they figure out they can hitch their wagon to his and they can get ahead a little bit, all that stuff just goes by the wayside. Again, opportunistic, short-sighted fuck sticks. There we go.
Yeah.
It's so wild though because it's so obvious, right? Like
It is so
It
obvious.
is. It
and
is.
it's just like it must be obvious to them. Like you're not on the like if you ever read a book or watch a movie, like don't you realize you're the villain? Like like Elon Musk. Don't you realize you're the billionaire who is like doing all this crazy shit? Like you're not the
Yeah.
hero who like rushes in to save the day. Like you're the fucking
It's
weirdo
sad that
cringe billionaire.
if we're in the Beauty and the Beast, you're not the Beast. You're Gaston. You're that fucker.
You're
know,
the beast too because that motherfucker kidnapped Bill.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
movie
Yeah.
was-
Yeah.
That story's fucked up. Come on,
That
man.
story
We-
is fucked up.
We sent some
Yes.
really bad messages to our daughters with that one.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant metaphor though because they're like, I mean, I see it on TikTok all the time. I'm a woman who voted for Trump. I would like Belle would vote for the beast every time too. That's
Sure.
called Stockholm syndrome. That's
Right.
he
Yeah.
kidnapped her father and then did a prisoner exchange for her and kidnapped her.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, tale is all the time indeed, right?
Yeah.
No shit.
I mean, fuck.
Elon is a Bond villain. You're right. You're right, Care Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he thinks he's Tony Stark.
Yep.
He wishes he was half the man Tony Stark is. Come on, man. Elon,
Dude,
that's
him jumping in the shape of an X has to be the cringiest, weirdest thing I've
Oh
ever
my
heard.
gosh.
Oh, jeez.
Well, so the other part of this that makes me nervous is the orbit of people, or the people that were going to be in his orbit that are.
Yep.
So you're going to get RFK, who's a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, we're going to get the fluoride out of our drinking water because cavities are good.
And we're gonna be drinking chunky raw milk.
Chunky raw milk. It's going to be a goddamn fucking. It's going to be idiocracy up there. We're going to be watering our crops with Gatorade.
Have you heard the term cacistocracy? It's
No.
where the least equipped among us run the government. The cacistocracy. I think that's the word of 2025. It's going to be common nomenclature.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. It truly is. I mean, Matt Gaetz as the AG. It's like that whole story is
Jesus.
like if you tell that story, like, oh, he dropped out 2 days before the report that shows that he was sleeping with a 17-year-old and the damning, oh, he dropped out to be AG, to be in charge of the DOJ, which was investigating him for this shit. Like, like we all know he's a bad dude. He's sex trafficking minors, and he's like, let's give him AG.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make this shit up, man.
No.
Yeah. It'll be that's nuts. I don't even know what to say about that. And Trump has said out loud the soft part, which is he wants an AG who will basically be his attack dog. So that's at least idealistically, the Justice Department was always supposed to be, autonomous to a point. And that's not what Trump wants. He does not want an AG who is autonomous. He wants him to be at the beck and call of the president of the executive branch. And so be prepared. I wouldn't be surprised to see some people being rung up on some charges going forward. The locker up chance may get revived again. I don't know. It's terrifying because, again, there's at least, Clarence Thomas is probably going to retire in the next 4 years. So there's one more, probably 40, 50-year-old, right-wing nut job who can sit on the court for a generation.
Yep.
That's the ball game in a lot of ways. We're looking at a generational amount of harm that's coming our way.
Yep.
And people were like, yeah, but milk is going to be cheaper. Well, fuck you and your milk.
Yeah. Egg prices are going to go down.
Yay.
Yeah.
And first of all, they're not. And second of all, I'd gladly pay $6 for a fucking egg to not have some of this dystopian bullshit pushed down our throats. So, if this is the deal, if this is the Faustian deal you made with, where you're gonna trade some people's liberties and freedoms for cheaper fucking groceries, then fuck you and the horse you rode in on and the gods you claim to worship. Fuck all.
Yeah,
of them.
exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, that was
So
salty.
that's how you really feel.
I'm fucking salty. I'm done. I'm done sugarcoating shit. I'm like, you know what? Fuck y'all.
Yeah.
That's the new tagline for the podcast, John. Yeah.
What's that?
Fuck you. Fuck the horse you rode on. Fuck the gods you worship. Fuck the church you attend. All of whom are aligned against genuinely good people that I love.
Yeah.
And if you expect us all to sit by the wayside and just watch you attack them and threaten them, buckle the fuck up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is the paradox of being, paradox of unity and all this. If you let's just come together. If you come together with these folks,
Yeah.
you're turning your back on the people they're marginalized. So actually, you're
there's-
really riding with them.
Yeah. The unity talk is all pie in the sky. It's nice, but
there's no room. There's no room for, hey, can we all just get along? There's no room for that right now.
No, we cannot.
Not as my LGBTQI plus siblings are being harmed. Not as my BIPOC siblings are being harmed. No, it's not a time to say, and it's not a time to say, can't we just agree to disagree?
With what?
No,
we can't.
Right. I'll agree.
Tell you what,
we've mentioned this before. I can agree to disagree with you that pumpkin spice sucks or doesn't suck. I'll agree to disagree with you on that.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Well, let's agree to disagree, Matt.
Yeah. Fine. And we can agree to disagree on that. I'm okay with that. But when it comes to the marginalized, I cannot agree to disagree with you as my friends and siblings are being harmed. I just can't.
Well, and the conversations that they're having are literally conversations about whether they have the right to exist.
Yeah.
And live their lives unfettered and unharassed. Like that's every person that I know who lives in that community, who identifies that way. All they want is to be left the fuck alone. That's the gay lifestyle. That's the gay agenda. Let me live my fucking life how I want to live. Give me the same rights you give everybody else. And let's fight about whether or not pumpkin spice or whether or not pineapple belongs on pizza. Fine. We can agree to disagree. By the way, pineapple absolutely belongs on pizza. It's fucking amazing.
It's fine if you do it, but don't force me to.
Right.
Which is the way I feel. Pineapple on my pizza.
Yeah. I don't believe in gay marriage because really? Then don't get gay married. No problem. Problem solved. You don't believe in abortion? Don't have one. That's fine. To be honest with you, I'm still like I don't like the idea of abortion. I wish it wasn't necessary. But the sad thing, the weird thing is that under more progressive and liberal leadership, we have fewer of them because there's things like sex education and access to birth control and
I'll say to the conservatives, fine, let's not have abortions. Let's give everyone universal health care and we won't need them.
Yeah.
No, we still will. I don't understand how it's not that woman's choice with her doctor.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me. I've never once had to consult anyone of what someone was going to choose to decide whether I can have some sort of procedure. And the one question. I didn't have, I didn't have any consent was circumcision. I'm against. Like I didn't have consent to that.
Yep.
Let me choose that. That was chosen to me as I was a little baby.
Well, that's the question you ask, right? Is tell me one law that's specific to men
there's none.
Right. That says that a man can't do something like we are doing to women. One law specific to men. There's not one.
There's not one. But in Texas still, and I think this is true across the board, a woman can't get a tubal ligation without jumping through myriad hoops, and to the point of having to have her husband sign off on it and say it's okay. If she's under 30, they're gonna have to push like hell to get it done. I could have walked in at 20 and got a vasectomy, and nobody would have said shit except, "Are you sure? Okay, let's go." It is.
Lisa says we've seen countless examples of the need for abortions. Yeah, I agree with that. My point was that if you want to see abortions go down, then give everyone universal health care and do more progressive policies, because statistically speaking, under progressive policies, abortions go down. That's just the rub.
And of course, there's I have had many friends who've had miscarriages and ended up having what amounts to an abortion, right? You have to go have a DNC, you have to do something, you have to go see a medical professional, or you could fucking die. And to have these doctors hand-wringing over whether or not, and this happened in Texas, has happened a handful of times already, hand-wringing over whether or not they can perform this procedure If the person, in fact, I saw a woman on TV telling her story, and it was essentially the argument came down to like, are you dying enough?
Are you
Like
dying
there's
enough? That's
yeah,
horrible.
like she's septic, she's dying, but is she dying enough? And when they got to a point where they felt like they could justify the procedure, they did it. And for her, it was just in time. For many other women, it has come just a hair too late. And by the
Right.
time they're in organ failure, they die in their 20s. What the fuck are we doing over a procedure that 2 years ago would have just been handled? It would have just been done because the life of the living human being has to trump the life of the potentially living or the dying human being inside her. I was one of my friends who's online, who's a secular humanist, is like, essentially his argument is bodily autonomy. And he's like, women should have autonomy, even over the fetus that's, basically using them as a host. It's still her body. It's still her choice. It still requires her permission to allow that to continue. At what point did we just, well, I know when, but we've just decided that women don't have autonomy over their bodies. And that's a scary fucking place to be.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Lisa, you're right, by the way.
Are we making America great again yet, folks?
We're making Lisa gag again. She's getting mad on the chats. Lisa and I have known each other for a long time online, by the way. It's nice to see you in here, Lisa. Hi.
Lisa is a wonderful person.
Yes, there's a handful of people that have gone by. I saw Peggy Hess in there she might still be in the chat, but I recognize names that I've known online for some time, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, we're at about over an hour now, so I appreciate you both coming through, and I appreciate everyone listening. Make sure you subscribe to This Is Not Church. Anything else you want to plug, Nat, John? What do you got coming up?
More of the same, man. John's got guests lined up. We've got cool people. We just dropped an episode with John Dominic Crossan, which is really, 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 really good. Dom's a great dude. You want to get a new take on Paul.
I love that. That was a great conversation.
Dom's new book is so good. Talking about Paul and his different matrices, and very good. Trying to rescue some of what his take on how the church tried to mute Paul, and why so much of what's attributed to him as being the author, he's just not. And it was anyway, it makes a lot of sense of stuff that sometimes from Paul sounds a little schizophrenic and weird. But check it out. That's that one came out last week, and we've got new episodes coming. We got a really cool episode with Jay Baker that's out. So if you remember, Jim and Tammy Faye of the PTL days, their son is an amazing guy. So we had a really good talk with him. But more of the same coming.
Yeah,
cool. Well, I look forward to it, and I would encourage again everyone go subscribe. And thank you for listening. Subscribe to Heretic Cat. Well, you're already subscribed to Heretic Happy Hour. Rate and review the show. Got to say all the things. And we'll see you on the flip side. See you on Tuesday. To everyone listening.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, man.
Really thanks, man. A lot of fun, man.